So I thought of this little idea for a video to try a while back, i.e., over a year back, for potential content. Since I'm still roughly new to video content making in general, and what could I do to combine both film, TV, and any media topics? Drawing something related to the topic is one way. The biggest one I could think of was one of my longest inspirations to media studies that pretty much is consistent for most of my life, one way or another, and that would be Carrie. No, the other one. On one hand, it's kind of cringy as I look back on it because I was so obsessed with this film back when I was a teenager. It still has a place now and again that I occasionally look back on. After seeing the movie, it was then reading the novel, then looking up anything and everything about it, many movie reviews, behind the scenes, anything online. And yes, I also did drawings. Some not as great, looking back now. I even bought a Carrie pewter necklace, etched many years ago on eBay. Speaking of, I still look up on those rare times if any props or costumes from the 1976 version ever show up on auction sites, but not much luck. But, on the other hand, it strikes a chord to me to this very day. A tragic high school story. Everyone knows and analyzes why it's compelling. Abuse both in the home and school, loneliness, isolation, the cattiness of women, and finally, a fiery retribution where no one really wins. A bigger analysis suggests the breakdown of the family, particularly in the 1970s when cultural shifts from old values to developing one's individual purpose in society. And big things do get broken in a big way. A lot of it thanks to telekinetic capabilities as opposed to real-life weaponry. Now, say what you will about the Carries from 2002 and 2013 and her half-sister, but only those who consider themselves the die-hard appreciators will understand the cast-asides. Its biggest connection to me involves my relationship with my mother. Without going into too much detail, all you need to know was there was no religious fervor, no physical abuse, emotional, mental issues I developed, sensitive against abrasive personalities, but topped with developing mental health issues, besides being a teenager connecting further sympathy to the character. High school definitely wasn't better, but at least no period pads or pig's blood were involved. Both resulted in extremes in media exposure and parenting, messing up my perceptions on social connections and caused confusion on parental intentions. Then, add in mental hospital stay after turning 16, and you got your connection to the rage, Carrie 2, where Sue Snell from the original revealed she was hospitalized after the events. Looking back on it, I do understand where my teen self was coming from and why I felt contradictory for a parent who says they love you and have shown that love, yet does something or reacts in a way that is the opposite of that love. It doesn't even have to be violent or an assault. If you're on that sensitive plane where it's cranked to almost 9 or 10 or 11, anything can feel like abuse or PTSD. Maybe you went through somewhat of the latter, if you count absorbing others' emotions without a proper defense system or a better sense of self to not be so easily swayed. I mean, being treated like crap is something all of us can relate to. Again, while not exactly the same torture, but torture or the idea of torture all the same. Not advocating for violence, though, no matter how strong the desire is. No matter how many times I've had ideations and have been at my limit, maybe there's something in me that's keeping my compass forward to not be some particular thing I'm not. What that horror means to me, when it's not confronted, turns to a more horrific trauma that spreads because of lack of knowledge or your own actions. Your choices leading to negative consequences. While some things are other people's business, it also depends on if that business will have a tendency to be replicated or spread further, either because of lack of knowledge or ignorance. Or we just don't have a good sense of self or a personal larger defense system, physical or psychological, that somehow protects us as it happens. Or just that shit just happens. Lack of confrontation can breed ill effect, or unhealthy confrontation, bordering on fanaticism, creating others ill effect. I don't have any training in psychology, and with the topic already sounding depressing, they're just long, curated observations of mine, remembering what I've read when I was more focused on media topics. But that trauma is still a human thing, inflicted and the inflictors, invalidated, ostracized. All these things I ended up feeling, despite having a relatively good life. It's that pesky, yet inane, sensitive tuning cranked up without much practice in self-resiliency. Carrie has shown me that despite the minor obsessions I've had, the turmoil over other people's views reflected back on me, or just hearing about the worst people go through, the invalidation and lonely moments, the hell resulting good intentions that still cost me things I could have experienced earlier, only to be obtained later to appreciate what not to do, and how not everyone gets that opportunity.